Christopher John Joseph here in Melbourne, Australia, a non-denominational 68-year-old follower of Jesus of Nazareth, one of the greatest spiritual teachers we've had in the earthly world, which is material and all ends in death. So we have to try to find our way through this, and he and Buddha also, 600 years before Jesus, both experienced a singularity of divine love. Jesus, 600 years after Buddha, had another whole revelation that we need to bring our love to children in need. And he could work physical miracles because he had a higher understanding than Buddha, even higher. But both had the singularity, clear light mind experience of love. Buddha taught, of course, you must clean the inside of your mind out to experience what Buddha experienced. And Jesus encapsulated this, in fact, the entire teachings of Buddha in a way, by simply saying it's the dirt inside your cup that is the problem, not the dirt on the outside of your cup. So clean the inside of your cup, that is your mind, your soul, your spirit, and all will be well on the outside. If you have a spiritual mind of love, you can't hurt anyone. You can't be Vladimir Putin, Hamas, the Israeli army, Ukraine army, Russian army, Hitler. You can't be any of those children who are satanic false identities, all of them on the way to hell, unless they repent, of course, but they're all going to hell. Unfortunately, we can only pray for them that they wake up before it's too late, before their bodies die. But Jesus and Buddha in particular, two of the greatest spiritual teachers I think we've ever had on the earth, both understood we must love one another as ourselves. That is, we see the other as ourself. You don't want to be hurt, so don't hurt anyone. When you're in trouble or ill or sick, you'd like someone to help you. When we see someone who's down or out or sick, we help them. So this is the whole universal message that Jesus and Buddha both, we must remember both were pacifists. Jesus' message of pacifism was destroyed by the Constantine Emperor Constantine in Roman days, 312 AD. He destroyed the incredible message of Jesus of pacifism. The church leaders at the time were already heavily corrupted by Constantine, and they agreed to allow children of God, the true loving God, who were Christians, the Roman army, they allowed the Roman army eventually, it took about 12 months, a year or two, for them to cave in, but they said it's okay for followers of Jesus who are in the army, Roman army. Constantine becomes Christian, so of course he's the emperor, everyone must be Christian, all the old gods are gone, so you sort of got to follow the rules. And but the army, of course, was a problem because they were murdering and killing in the name of Jesus, which is what Constantine did, of course, at the famous battle, I think it's the Milvian Bridge battle, where he destroyed the contender, murdered the contender, his army, so that he could become emperor in the name of Jesus and the one divine loving God of Jesus. So he murdered and killed in the name of Jesus, who doesn't murder or kill, or the one divine loving life force that Jesus was at one with, who doesn't also kill or murder anyone. We as humans can kill and murder, and we reap what we sow, and hell exists. If you want to go there, you can go there if you want to, but you'll deeply regret it when you're there. Better to go to heaven. We have to bring love on earth, those of us who really are followers of these great pacifist spiritual teachers, great men, great women. They are the pacifist lights in the world towards heaven. So Jesus' message was destroyed by Constantine and the early church leaders. The pacifist message, and of course Christians have been killing and murdering ever since. And that's because essentially what happened was that the Christian followers of Jesus decided to become Jewish Christians. That is, they started to worship the old God of the Jews, the two-headed God of the Jews, who murders, steals and robs and steals land and slaughters the enemies. And even if they're not enemies, the Jewish God will slaughter them anyway in order for you to gain land or something. And Jesus, of course, was not a part of that Jewish God. He knew the Jews were worshipping a two-headed God, a perverted, delusional understanding of the divine. Regretfully, Muhammad built his understanding on the Jewish perversion and delusional understanding of God. So you've got the Muslims and Jews killing each other because they both worship a perverted understanding and delusional understanding of the true divine loving God. So it's a big problem. That's not to say there aren't Muslims who only worship the God of love, and there are Jews who only worship the God of love, as Jesus himself only worshipped the God of love that was mentioned in the Jewish religions. In their scriptures, he cut the head the war got off. He cut it off with the sword of truth wielded by the hand of divine love. So Jesus was very special to go against his own perverted religion. And of course they murdered him because they don't want to be pacifists, the Jews, and neither do all of the Muslims. However, as I say, there are some beautiful Jewish children of God who demonstrate against the Israeli government to help the Palestinian children who are being persecuted and murdered and killed, and their land is being stolen on the West Bank, as we all know, by the Jewish government and the Jewish terrorists who live there and steal the land and murder the Palestinians. So we pray for those Jewish children who are true children of God and who love Palestinians as equally as they would love their Jewish brothers and sisters. These are the true children of God. They're a very small minority in the Jewish Israeli country. Probably be lucky if it's 0.5%. I'd be surprised if it's 5%. It might be though. It could be. There are many good Jewish children who hate what the Israeli government are doing, slaughtering and murdering thousands and thousands of innocent Palestinians, as understandably there are many Palestinians who hate that the Hamas terrorists murdered 1,200 innocent Israeli children. All these children who murder and kill other children of God, they are satanic children. So we have to pray for them. They're delusional, they're sort of demented in their minds, they're in the dark, they have this sort of beastly, earthly power to drop bombs and guns and things and bullets, and they're completely demented and all, unfortunately, heading to hell. It's very regretful that they're so insane. We can only pray for them that they come out of their insanity. It's very hard for pacifist Muslims or Jewish children or Christian children. It's very hard for us to help these beasts of the flesh, these satanic children. Once they're gone into the dark, false identity, they're just murderers and killers and hate and that sort of thing. So we have to pray for them though. We have to forgive them too, which is one of the highest forms of love. When you think about it, what's the highest form of love? One of the highest forms is to forgive. If you can forgive someone who's hurt you, you are really on your way to heaven. Don't worry about your body dying. It's not important in the end. It's important before the end so that we can help our family, our neighbours, our friends, our country, the world, be filling it with love. You have to be here for the love of heaven to come into the world. So it is important we don't die too soon, but it is nonetheless unimportant at the end. You have another body. This is certainly what Jesus taught, and Buddha also. The Buddhists call it the consciousness, the mind that travels on. Jesus says it's your spirit that travels on. I find Jesus more personable than the Buddhist teachings. However, nonetheless, they similarly talk about the Buddhist clear light mind of light. It's a clear light mind. And Jesus also said if your eye is single, if your mind is full of love, your whole body will be full of light. Buddha and Jesus both had a very similar experience, I'm sure. Buddha was tended to be more passive love. Come and sit in the forest with me and I'll teach you how to have this incredible experience before your body dies, and you'll be okay. You won't die at all. You know, your consciousness will travel on and nirvana will be reached. Jesus absolutely taught the same thing, clean the inside of the cup out. But he said that once you realize this truth, that you have another body, it's spiritual, it won't die, but it must be a body empowered only by love. I must be only empowered by love. That must be my primary identity in this dualistic, dangerous earth world. He then said, once you realize this, once you're at this level of understanding of who you really are and what's going on in this world, that there's this sort of dark force and this force of light, we become children of light in the world, which is unfortunately has darkness in it, and many children have fallen into the trap of becoming children of darkness, and they murder and kill Adolf Hitler, Vladimir, all the rest of it that's going on, the wars, all the warmongers, all the armaments industry. I mean, the entire armaments industry work for Satan. Everyone employed there is on the payroll of Satan. They don't even know it. So we feel sorry for those children. We can only bring love into this world through love. You can't bring it in through the bullet. You can go to hell through holding a gun. If you want to go to hell, pick up a gun. You'll go to hell, don't worry. It's guaranteed. But if you pick up a Band-Aid or food or shelter or clothing or water, bring love to other children in need, you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. Choice is yours, choice is mine. We all face difficulties with our physical body in our life, but Jesus and Buddha in particular were pacifists. Any Christian who tells you Jesus was not a pacifist, they're a liar. Or at best, they're a Jewish Christian, because Jews are not pacifists. Only the very small percentage of Jews are true children of God, pacifists. The vast majority are worshippers of the two-headed, delusional, perverted God of war and love. But anyone who really is a pacifist understands how powerful that spiritual reality is. Unfortunately, we fall into the minority and we'll be persecuted and hated because how can you be a pacifist? These people are evil. Yes, they're evil. I know they're evil. We have to show them the opposite. Otherwise, how are they ever going to understand? No point becoming another beast of the flesh, a satanic child. If they're already satanic, there's no point me being satanic. I can't help them if I'm satanic too. I have to stand out of the quicksand on the solid rock of love and try to reach out and lift them out of the quicksand they've fallen into, of the delusional false identity that they've created for themselves, a shadow figure, by turning away from the light of love from our Creator, and they've become a dark shadow figure. They've got earthly powers, don't get me wrong. They've got power, all right? It's all earthly. You know, gases, water, chemicals, the body, it's all earthly power. They can pick up a gun and kill someone they don't like or whatever. It doesn't matter. Their body grows old and it dies and it rots and it stinks, just like anyone else's body. They're living a delusional. Vladimir Putin is a demented sort of madman, really. He's so weak that he can't stop himself from killing other children of God. That's how weak he is in his own spiritual mind. It's a tiny, tiny little mind, almost going out. We have to remember that he's a very weak little man. I don't know, Satan gets these children, and that's the way they go. So he appears big on the outside, but when he dies, unfortunately, he'll be very sorry. Deeply regretful, of course, along with all Hamas and Israeli army, Ukraine army, Russian army, anyone who's killing and murdering around the world in Congo and everywhere else. They don't understand at all that they've actually now become shadow figures, devoid of spirit, turned away from the light of the divine loving Creator. They're not filled with the divine loving Creator spiritual life force anymore, because they're living a false, lying identity, which is a shadow figure of the flesh. So they become what I call beasts of the flesh. All flesh rots, stinks, and dies. So they've got a problem there. We've got to pray for them. Now, I've written a book called The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged, because I was so disturbed by the way that children in various Christian churches, Jewish Christian churches, Judeo-Christian, that includes the Catholic, Pentecostal, Seventh-day, Jehovah's, whoever it is around the world, they're all saying that the God of the Jews, the two-headed God, the war God and loving God, the two-headed God called Yahweh, one body, Yahweh, two heads, God of war, God of love. They all teach, including the Catholic Church that I was born into, that that's the same God as Jesus, which is a lie. It's a complete fabrication, lie, delusion, demented sort of state of consciousness, perversion, whatever you want to call it, brainwashing. It's completely wrong. The God of the Jews is not, I repeat, it is not the God of Jesus. They're two completely different gods. The God of love is with the Jewish teachings, but so is the God of war. And they unfortunately called both these gods Yahweh. Unlike the Romans and Greeks and others, the Romans have the war god of Mars, I think it was. They'd have a god of love. At least they were very honest. When they went to war, they went to the war god temple, prayed to the war god to go and kill and slaughter, and then they go to the other temple for love or whatever it is they wanted and pray to that god. The Jews, regretfully, had this very cunning way of putting the two heads on the one body, so they could kill and slaughter and murder and steal and love and say it's the one God. Very schizophrenic, I'm afraid. My Jewish brothers and sisters, get out of it. I wish all the rabbis of the world, I wish there was a radical movement in the Jewish rabbinical groups, leaders who cut out all the war god references, cut them all out, get them out, rewrite the scriptures with only the God of love in it, and in fact, if you do so, you'll be better than all the Judeo-Christians in the world, who have a God of love but still worship the war god that the Jewish religion holds up. So I really had to rewrite the Gospels because I was slandering Jesus and my loving God. So that's no good. I thought, this is no good. I'm 68 years old. I better do something. So you can buy this book online, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. I've just removed a lot of what I call the Jewish overlays and it's still traditional. It has all the traditional stories. But I've cut out various things like the genealogy of Jesus and those sorts of things. They were all put in there to help the Jews come out to worship Jesus. So I better move along. So that's available from me directly, that book. You can order it, contact me on jcinfocus@gmail and I'll send you, post you out a copy. You can buy it online too as well. It's another version. I want to start a new spiritual Christian community called the Earth Spirit Divine Love Community. Earth and spirit, these are the two things Jesus taught about. We have an earthly body and a spiritual body. One dies, one goes and reaps what it sows. Hopefully you go to heaven. So I wanted to start a new Christian community. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and there are no Christian churches here in the whole of Melbourne. They're all Jewish Christian churches, and I can't fully join them. I can join in with them, but not with them fully, because their understanding, I believe, is incorrect. A spiritual Christian community of followers of Jesus of Nazareth, not a Jewish Christian community. Only pacifists, spiritual children of light, who wish to join, contact me on JC in Focus. We are pacifist Christians. Jesus rose in a perfect spiritual body, not the flesh, right? Jesus taught we got two bodies. He taught it. It's in the dialogues, which is in the Gospels, and it's even in any Bible in the world, about the two women grinding at the mill. One dies, one leaves. There are two in a single bed. One stays, one dies, and one leaves. Jesus has taught we have two bodies. Please understand that. Move into your spiritual body. That's a body of love, and then express it through the secondary, temporary body called the physical body of flesh. Love your family, love your neighbours, love your country, love others, love the enemy. Oh no, we can't love the enemy, we've got to bomb them and kill them. That's Jewish or Muslim. Got to remember, Muhammad built the understanding of the divine loving God on the Jewish misunderstanding of God. That's the problem. The first two chapters of the Quran, Muhammad talks about the Israelites and how, their understanding of Abraham and God, etc. He built his misunderstanding of God also on the misunderstanding of the Jews. That God is only love is the correct understanding, but he built it on the two-headed God of the Jews, where if they attacked him, he could kill, he taught that they could kill others who attacked them. Eventually that turns into you simply invade and take over, which is what was happening and still does. So these distortions come in, regretfully, through the religious leaders of the Muslim faith, Muhammad in particular, and the others, who, although there's love in their teachings, the understanding of the divine presence of love is not there. It's divided. It's a war god. It's black and white. It's not just white. So we have to pray for them, but there are wonderful Muslim children who are far better than me, wonderful small minority of children, Jewish children far better than me, more loving, more kind than I've ever been. They will be in heaven. Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, doesn't matter. Love is the ticket. So it's not just about what faith you belong to, it's how you're living it, how you understand it. So there are good children in all faiths of the world, but there are other children who are misguided and worship a perverted understanding. So the divine loving creator is only love. The Jewish misunderstanding of the divine worship, the two-headed God, a godhead of war and a godhead of love with one body called Yahweh. We do not follow that two-headed God. True followers of Christ, of Jesus' understanding, we don't follow a two-headed God. We only follow the God of love. Jesus was aware of this serious misunderstanding, and Jesus was aware of this serious misunderstanding or perversion and cut the war godhead off the Jewish religion, two-headed God of war and love, to bring the Jewish children out of their perverted misunderstanding. Only some Jewish children followed who wanted to come out of their delusion and perversion into spiritual love only and enter the heavenly spiritual world. They were the first disciples or followers of Jesus of Nazareth and the divine loving spiritual creator of our true spiritual life. Heaven exists and it is eternal, and all who wish to become spiritual children on earth are welcome, regardless of religion or no religion. You just have to... The ticket to enter heaven has the word love written on it. Don't judge anyone. Someone can be a complete atheist, but they're so beautiful and loving and kind and generous and not greedy their whole life. They'll be well and truly in heaven before me. Oh, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm special. No, I'm not special. He's a great teacher. He's brilliant, he's beautiful, he's one of the best we've ever had. And he is my primary birth teacher. But it doesn't mean to say anyone else can enter heaven way ahead of me if they've lived a life of love. That's all that's needed, because loving children know each other. We are the same family. So if you hold that ticket, you may enter heaven. If your ticket has the word hate written on it in your own handwriting, I repeat, you can only write the word hate if you've written it on. So if your life hates others, you've written that word on it, and you cannot enter the heavenly spiritual world of love. You've put the lock on the gates of heaven yourself. No one else has. You have. All enemies are within. There are no external enemies in the ultimate truth of our journey on earth. We all die. The only enemy you have to face are the internal enemies. Someone's always going to hurt us or rob us or steal or whatever it may be, even kill us. Our bodies, that is. But they're not the real enemies that prevent us from getting into heaven. They can only kill your body, as Jesus said. Don't fear anyone who can kill your physical body. Don't worry about that. Worry about your soul. Love them. Oh, that sounds impossible. But no, he said, no, I've done it. I'll teach you how to do it. And he does. His teachings are beautiful. So hell exists, but we must create it ourselves through evil ways by becoming beasts of the flesh, devoid of spiritual love. All those who enter this hellish burning realization after death of their body of flesh will deeply regret it, and I assure you they will. Vladimir Putin, Israeli army, Hamas, Hezbollah, Ukraine army, Russian soldiers, they got no idea about hell. I assure you, if they even had a 5-minute session in the hell they're heading towards, they would drop their guns, tanks and bombs. All the Israeli soldiers would walk out and go home and love their families. Never heard a Palestinian again. All the Hamas would drop their guns and love Jewish children again. If they understood where they're heading, I assure you, they immediately would drop all their guns and tanks and bombs and planes and go home and love their family and love everyone else on earth. They've got no idea about heaven, and they've sure got no idea about hell. I can only warn them, it exists. Be careful, you're heading for it. You murdering, warmongering worshippers of death and war. Repent now and you'll avoid undergoing the exact extreme suffering you have caused to others while in the flesh. You're listening to this. Are you listening to this, Vladimir Putin, Hamas, Hezbollah, Israeli forces, Russian troops, Ukraine troops? All of you are murderers. They should be murderers. Hang on a minute. I'll just, murderers. There we are. Correcting as we go. Such is the amateurish, naive, childlike nature of a child of Jesus. All of you are murderers of the children of the divine loving Creator, your own brothers and sisters and children and parents. That's the trouble. They don't get it. They're completely demented. Wake up, stop worshipping death and the false identity of darkness and shadow Satan, and come to spiritual life. For every child you kill and maim, you will pay for to the fullest extent after your body of flesh returns to the earth and your spirit is in the presence of the divine loving Creator of your spiritual life. Too late to say sorry, Vladimir and other children of Satan. You have become the false identities you have created from worshipping the God of death, the beast of the flesh, devoid of spirit. It's so sad that after the First World War, Second World War, Vietnam War, Korean War, the wars just go on and on, Iraq, still children want to become beasts of the flesh, satanic children, and not be filled with love. It's unbelievable. We can only pray for you and shine the light of love on you. You can only kill our bodies of flesh. So they can only kill bodies of flesh, these satanic children. That's all they can do. But their body grows old. But you'll die one day too and have destroyed your own spiritual life. While ours is safe and moving on to a new life, into a spiritual world of love you cannot enter through your own doing. He who lives by the sword or gun will perish by the sword or gun. Be warned now, drop out of all armies and return to your children of the divine, to being children of the divine loving Creator before it is too late. It's the simple message I can only share with all the children of the world who are killing and murdering in their armies and air force and navies. How are we going to stop the killing if you children don't get out? Stop being involved. Vladimir Putin couldn't invade Ukraine if the Russian monkeys didn't just do what he said. I mean, he's a nutcase. He's insane. And yet these Russian children do what he wants, do his bidding. They don't do the divine loving Creator's bidding at all. They don't care about God. They're just frightened that if they don't do what he says, he'll kill them, which of course that's what he does. And Hitler and all the other madmen of the world, mostly men, not women, I might add. Women aren't involved normally in these sort of murderous activities because they give birth to children. If we gave birth to children, maybe there'd be less wars, But women give birth. They don't want to see their children go off and kill and murder and slaughter and be blown to pieces. But crackpots like Vladimir and Hamas and Israeli army, Netanyahu, all these other sort of satanic children, they don't care. They don't care at all. We got to feel sorry for them. Now, the internet has this book. You can get it worldwide, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. This is the actual version available worldwide of the Gospels, which I've written concerning just Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Thomas. And this has a better, I believe anyway, a better understanding of focus. It's still traditional, it's still very much for Christian readers, but at the same time it has removed a lot of the Jewish overlays or poisoning from the Jewish religion, which has creeped into the Christian religion. As Jesus said, don't mix this new wine in with the old wine because you won't understand the new understanding of God anymore if you mix it in with the old two-headed God understanding. He even warned Christian followers never to do that. But if you look at the Bible, the new wine and the old wine, he said don't mix them together. Look at any Bible in the world, except mine, the Gospel of Jesus, and you'll find the New Testament is in the same wineskin as the Old Testament of the Jews. And this is the massive, massive mistake. Every Christian in the world, you've got to get your Bible out and cut it into two different books. You're being deluded. You're being deluded. There's a Jewish religion in the Bible and a Christian religion. Don't have them in the one book. Whatever you do, don't do that. You've got two completely different gods. You mustn't do that. There are many good children that have come out of the Jewish Christian churches, but only because they focus on Jesus and the God of Jesus. The old Jewish religious God, the two-headed God, they don't focus on that. But they teach it. These Jewish Christian churches all teach it, and that's very wrong. They shouldn't do that. No wonder no young people are interested. So that's the worldwide version. You can get it, you can order it directly from me, or you can get it online. The spiritual way of Jesus to move beyond death to heavenly spiritual world. Now, the brief history is that in 312 AD, Constantine, the Emperor, Roman Constantine, and the corrupt Christian church leaders of the time destroyed the extremely important spiritual practice that Jesus gave us to practice this dualistic material earthly world regarding pacifism. So in this dualistic material world, we should be pacifists. Oh, no, we can't be that, everyone says. Jesus says, no, this world's sort of a false world. It's not the real world. You've got to behave as if you're in the real world, which is spiritual and only loving. And of course, that means we have to sacrifice our physical body. And that's exactly what Jesus demonstrated on the cross. He demonstrated that he'd let them kill his physical body because he knew he had a spiritual body. And that's what appeared to the disciples briefly, very briefly, and Mary Magdalene. It was his spiritual body. He told them, you've got another body, but they didn't understand because they hadn't been taught that before. So that's what his arising from the dead was. He rose again in spirit, not in the flesh. I suspect it was Peter and John who hid his body in order to protect the words that he taught, because otherwise they would have simply found his dead body. If the disciples said, we saw him again, he was alive, he was in a spiritual body. If they found his dead body rotting away, the Jewish leaders would have just called them all liars, and then the religion would have died out. So his beautiful message continued, but the disciples had to cover up the fact that his dead body did die and return to the earth, but for good reason, good intention, to make sure his spiritual message lived on. And it did. It did. His words are still available if you can just sort them out properly. So no follower of Jesus can be in an army, navy or air force of any country in the world. We cannot kill another child of the divine, no matter how evil they have become. We only try to save them, not kill them. That's a big problem, isn't it, to be like that? It's not impossible. Just you've got to have a lot of faith that heaven exists and life after death. But that's what Jesus said. It's okay. Just have faith. Be a light in the world. All Bibles in the world must be cut into two. One book's the Old Testament Jewish religion, the two-headed God of war and love, the New Testament of Jesus, and the one true spiritual loving creator of only love. They're two completely different religions. The Bible should never be joined. There's two different religions. Christians don't study we're not Jewish, we don't go to synagogues, and Jewish people don't come to the Christian churches. Why would we have the Jewish religion right next to, in the same book as our Christian religion, our understanding of God? Why would we have a distorted, perverted understanding of God next to our own true understanding that Jesus gives of love, only love? Why would we say that's the same God? You see, that's the perversion, that's the corruption, that's the massive destruction that Constantine and the early corrupt church leaders, and sadly all the church leaders of the world. I was born into the Catholic faith, and Pope Francis is a lovely person, but he's not teaching the truth. The Jewish God is not our God. Archbishop of Canterbury, Pentecostals, Jehovah's, Seventh Days, you name it. I don't know any Christian churches that exist in the world. They're just Christian. They're all Jewish Christians. I'm not interested in that church, those churches. I'm just a Christian. I want to start a new church. Join in. Contact me. Let's just be love and pacifists. Hopefully the others will catch up. All Bibles in the world, cut them in two. Cut your own Bible in two and stick the Jewish religion on the shelf. You're better off reading Buddhist teachings than the Jewish religion, because the Jewish religion is filled with the war god. At least Buddhist teachings don't talk about killing anyone. As you're the chosen children, and you're going to, the nirvana experience is going to slaughter your enemies. Buddha doesn't talk about that. He doesn't talk about that. So you're better off reading the Buddha teachings, or of course any other religion that has love in it. And the Quran has love in it, you see, but you've got to be selective. You've got to understand that there's a perversion. And it's our duty as in 2025 to come out of the perversion, the dualistic thinking, and come into the singularity of love. That's our commitment to Jesus, to Buddha, to the two-headed God of the Jews, and the Jewish children who follow only the good prophets, as they talk about, the loving prophets. They're the true children of God in the Jewish religion. The others are not. So we've just got to face this, and Christians too. My own faith that I was born into, there are Christians who believe we should kill this and kill them, and we're Christians and we're the only ones who are saved. So don't say that. Don't say that. I'm imperfect. Blimey. So look, we've got to try harder to come out of the delusions and perversions. Just be love. You can do it, but it's handy to have someone. Jesus and Buddha are the two greatest spiritual teachers I know of, myself, but even Plato and other people talked about these things. You can find this wherever you find teachings of love, whether it's in the Sikh religion, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Jewish scriptures. Obviously Jesus is only love, even though his teachings have been perverted. That's what you aim for. Aim for that. Don't listen to anyone who tells you us and them. That's a division within yourself, and you're dividing yourself between love and hate. You must not do that. Just be love. Maybe we can help the world change. Jesus himself warned his followers not to mix the new wine and understanding of the divine loving creator in with the old wine understanding of the two-headed God of the Jewish religion, or you will lose the correct understanding. The Old Testament religion of the Jews will poison the true understanding of the divine loving spiritual creator Jesus leads you to, and that's absolutely the truth. You must not poison the Jewish misunderstanding that they have. You mustn't mix that with the pure understanding of love that Jesus had. They didn't understand it. That's why he tried to help them. That's why he tried to bring them out of it. That's why they killed him, because they loved their war god. Understand that? I don't have to. It's 2025, February. You can see how much they love killing their enemies. They love it. So do Hamas, Hezbollah, Russian army. They're all puppets anyway, but it's horrific to see these children become satanic when they should be children of God. Cut the book of Revelations out of the Bible altogether and burn it, as it is a Jewish plant to take followers of Jesus away from the one true divine loving creator and drag you back into the perverted, delusional, two-headed God of the Jewish religion. And that's just a fact. Get rid of it. Cut it out. The Catholic religion, every religion in the world should rip it out, burn it, and say this has got nothing to do with Jesus. This is a delusional, perverted detour to take you back into war and hate. The churches have to start teaching this, otherwise no young people are interested anymore, because they're too smart. They're too smart to understand you're teaching a God of hate and murder and theft and throwing children into hell, and a God of love. They're too smart to take in that crap anymore. And it is rubbish. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. You must only teach love if you're Catholic. Cut the Bible in two, Pope Francis, or whoever his next Pope may be. Cut it in two. Only read from the New Testament, or read from any book of the world that talks about love. Jesus is a great teacher on love, one of the greatest. Follow him for sure. But stop saying the two-headed God is our God. Please stop saying that. It should never have been allowed into the New Testament, but the early church leaders were corrupted by Constantine, helped destroy the true message of Jesus. We are one only in and with love. You can only be one in love. You can't be one in love and hate. You're divided. You're a dichotomy. You're dualistic. Jesus said this. Buddha said this. The good prophets of the Jewish religion said this. It's right throughout even in the Quran, you'll find this aspect of love. Love. It's about love. Then there's this other distortion that's there as well, if it's not true. Jesus was true love. Jesus said, if you see me, you see the divine creator. He said this to Philip. Philip, if you see me, you see God. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't kill anyone. He saved everyone, healed everyone, brought everyone to love, loved everyone, no matter how bad they were. He loved them, forgave them. That is the divine loving creator, and that's the only way you're going to get into heaven. Sorry. You might think It's good to hate your enemies because everyone else does in your country or your community or your religion or whatever it is. But you're just being completely and totally brainwashed. You either love or you don't. If you want to love and hate, you're divided. Those children of God who love are the true children, and they will not die, as Jesus said. You'll be in heaven. So we are only one in love, not hate and war as the Jewish Christian churches would have you believe. Now I'm trying to work on this second book, The Teachings of Jesus Unplugged, but regretfully this fungal infection's nearly killing me every single day now. And it's interesting how in Melbourne, Australia, the entire medical profession here have ganged up against me. I can only pray for them. It's incredible corruption here in the medical profession in Melbourne, Australia, massive corruption in the pathology labs. And I feel very sorry for them. They've really become degenerate compared to when I was a child, and the many doctors who became doctors, it was often because of the Christian religion, to heal the sick and help the poor. It wasn't about the money and power and all this sort of thing. And regretfully, most doctors here in Melbourne, Australia, are not spiritual anymore. They're materialistic children, so they only think of material things and machines and things like this. So regretfully, my illness is close to killing my physical body, fungal. But I'm trying to write the teaching of Jesus Unplugged, which is just a general focus on his words and his singularity of love, but I'm having trouble completing it. Now this is just an Old Testament account just to prove to you, you don't have to think it's my opinion, but this is an account in the Jewish tradition which does need to be changed. The rabbis of the world need to cut these things right out of their scriptures altogether. This is the war god. You only have to look at it yourself. I won't go through it all here, but it's the slaughter at Jericho, where the God of the Lord of War and Death said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand." Well, now this is the Jewish belief, right? That this God, and this is the same Jewish Christian God, mind you, this is what the lie that the Jewish Christian churches, including the Catholic and Church of England and everyone else teaches, that this God who says, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king and the mighty men of valor." So, this is the God of the Jews saying this to Joshua, the leader of the Jews. "You shall march around the city, all you men of war." You see, this is the war God. This is the dirty, filthy, stinking, lying, murdering, stealing war God of the Jews or the Judeo-Christians, whoever it is who worships war. This is the God talking to Joshua, not the God of love of Jesus, not at all. And yet this is in the Bible. This is in the Old Testament, black and white. So they go there, and the upshot is that it says here that they take the ark, they take up the Ark of the Covenant, and they parade around the city of Jericho. They're frightened. They lock themselves in. The Jews are coming to kill them. And it's the covenant of our God of war and death. It's not the loving God that's in the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant. The loving God of Jesus and the God of love isn't in the war God covenant, and they parade around with their chest of war God in it to slaughter the Jericho people and steal their land. The Ark of the Covenant there is holding the war God. That's who they're worshipping. That's their God of war. They've taken to war with them. You can't take the God of love to a city of children and murder them and kill them and steal and burn the place to the ground. "Oh, our loving God, thank you for being with us while we murdered them." It's just hopeless, hopeless, hopeless. "Let him who is armed advance before the ark of the Lord. Let him who is armed. He who lives by the sword will perish by the sword." And here they're saying the God of Jesus is saying, "Oh, you pick up your gun, pick up your sword. Yeah, no worries. That's all good, you know." The armed men went before the priests. You see, it's a complete perversion, distortion of who God is. And you read that in the Bible, it's all there. "Now the city shall be doomed by the Lord of the death and war to destruction, it and all who are in it." But all the silver and gold, the vessels of bronze and iron, are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So they get taken back to the temple of Yahweh. All the material gold and stuff, all the material wealth goes back to the temple of Yahweh. Now that's the exact opposite of Jesus when he goes into the temple, overthrows the money changers and says, my temple is a temple of prayer, spiritual love. It's the exact opposite of God. It's the war God that the Jews are worshipping. This is the war God. You can just read it there for yourself. It's not my opinion. It's simply in their scriptures. They believe this. It's a shame. It's a tragedy. They don't cut this out. The rabbis, the modern rabbis should just cut this out and say this is rubbish. This is just total garbage. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. Now this is in the Old Testament. This is an apparent account of what really happened. Even if it was allegorical, it still makes no sense. Murder, kill young, women, old, children, babies, by the sword. What does Jesus say? He who lives by the sword will perish by the sword. Put your sword back into its place. Jesus is no part of this God at all. This God has no part of Jesus whatsoever in it. It's a war God. And I wish the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and all the church leaders of the world would say, listen, we've made a mistake. This is a two-headed God the Jews are worshipping. We want no part of it. But the God of love is there, but we've got to be very selective and very cautious. We should just focus on Jesus' words, and occasionally we'll mention the God of love, which is there. Love your neighbour as yourself, Leviticus. But they could study Buddhist teachings and include other teachings of the world. We got big problems. But they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. So they actually did exactly the opposite of what Jesus said to do. And yet all the Jewish Christian churches, the Catholics, Protestants, English, whoever they are, Pentecostal, they're all saying, oh, this is the God of Jesus. Yeah, that's the God of Jesus doing that. I'm saying, no, wake up. Just wake up to yourselves. You know, the elephant in the room, look at it. Wake up. That's a war God. Brutal, murdering, filthy, stinking, lying, thieving war God. And the Jews still follow it, so do the Muslims. Those who are radicals, those who are extremists, still follow it. Jesus did not. And any true Christian never does. So anyway, and so the Lord of war and death was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the whole country. He was a great murderer, that Joshua, great slaughterer, great thief, a great thief. So cut your Bible in two, and you might have a chance, if you're a Christian, to be a real Christian. So look, that's just a very small, very small talk about what I've seen has just been horrific. I didn't even bother looking at this for 60-something years because I was just a follower of Jesus. I left the Catholic Church when I was 17 because, you know, how could the Catholic Church be the only Christian church that's right? Obviously, they're all following the Gospels to some degree, and it's only his words that I love. I don't love an organisation. There are good organisations and many good things come out of good organisations. But Jesus taught a spiritual truth which applies to every child in the world. We all have a spiritual potential to be loved. Well, just become it. But don't worship and don't pin it on this deluded satanic God of war and say, oh, that's the God of love. Don't say that. I'm sick of children saying that, whether it's the Catholic Church or whoever it is. I'm sick of children saying the God of love is the same God of war. It's wrong. It's slanderous. No wonder children in Australia, anyway, young people aren't interested in going to any Christian churches. They're emptying, they're dying out here. In Australia, the Christian church is dying. And that's because they're teaching that the two-headed perverted God of the Jewish religion is the same God of Jesus. I've met so many people who have left because of that perversion, distortion, delusion. They're still trying to hang on to it. Get over it. Face the truth. We are not Jewish. If you're Christian, you're not Jewish. If you're Jewish, you're not Christian. It's that simple. Jews have the good prophets about love. They should follow those prophets and come out of their delusion. Jesus brought them out of the delusion. Some have followed him. I'm one of them. The Quakers and others that generally, they won't go to war. The Amish in America, they won't go to war and kill. At least they've got that part right, the pacifist message. Anyway, who wants to start a new church of pacifists, divine love only? Still inspired. Heaven's something I have no visions of heaven. I know it exists, but I know like everyone, I've got to try hard to get there, and I'm not perfect, but I can at least try. And I'm going to commit myself continually to love. Even though the medical profession here in Melbourne want to kill me, they actually want me dead. I've got too much evidence that they're incompetent and negligent, so they don't want me to see me live. Again, instead of being helpful, they've gone into this sort of egotistical thing. I don't know. It's so funny. Never mind. Spirit Earth. I thought Earth, Spirit, Divine Love Community would be a nice name for a new church. And it wouldn't matter. We could study Buddhist teachings, the Quran, the good prophets in the Jewish religion, the Sikh prophets, Baha'i faith. It wouldn't matter. Wherever love is, we could look at that and study that and bring the teachings on love from anyone in the world, the Bhagavad Gita, anywhere, and understand there's a universality about love. We mustn't say, oh, Jesus is the only one who saves you. It's far more correct to say the way of Jesus will save you, the way of love. And you'll find that all over the place. But I have to say he's one of the greatest. His idea that once you realize you're a loving spiritual being of God in heaven, beyond the physical body, then manifest the love through your physical body to children in need here. The down and out on the street, the homeless, the sick, the poor. Share your wealth. If you're blessed to have money, share it with those in need. He's a very supernatural spiritual teacher, but at the same time he's very practical. Manifest love here as much as you can. So that's my main sort of, I guess, my main wish is that you, in your life, with your family, your friends, your neighbours, manifest love, remembering that one of the highest, most profound levels of love you can ever reach is forgiveness. Deeply profound. Think about it. To become forgiveness in the face of people hurting you or trying to kill you, as I'm in Melbourne, I'm being persecuted here in Melbourne by the medical profession, refused treatment. I have to love them, feel sorry for them. Not to mention those who have been murdered and killed and bombed to death in these war zones by the satanic children. We even have to forgive them. That's a very high level of consciousness. You're almost moving completely out of your physical body at that level, and you are connecting with a divine loving Creator. We're all imperfect, but we must try. There's no reason why you can't try. If you've got good health, you can try. Okay, bit long-winded. Don't know if anyone's going to bother listening to all of this. Love your family, love those close to you, love your neighbours, and extend it out to the point where from within yourself you become love, and then even love those who hurt you. That doesn't mean you have a nice cup of tea or a beer with them down the pub, even though they're hurting you. It's not like that sort of love. It's compassion. Feel sorry for them that they've hurt you, because obviously they're not filled with love. If anyone hurts you, they're cut off from God's love. So we have to feel sorry for them. So that's how it starts. Sorrow leads to compassion, which comes from love. So you stay in love, even though the other child, family member, country, whatever it is hurting you. You stay in love. And you are the answer, not the problem. Oh, I wish you got lots of strength. I wish I had more strength. I pray for you all, if anyone's watching this. When your body dies, I pray you wake up in a beautiful spiritual world, because you've already become a beautiful spiritual child of love on earth. Okay. Bye.